Welcome back to our Power Up Virtual Book Club. I'm Dr. Cawley, the author of the book and also your host for today's session as we dive into section 3 of the book titled Rise and Shine. Now we'll get started in just a second with a quote and a few readings, but I wanted first just to remind you about the first 2 sections of the book. Section 1 was all about getting to know you, what's most essential to you, what's most important to you, building your self-awareness. Section 2 was then titled Power Play, how to become more empowered to own your story and then be able to reframe how you think about yourself and the world and let go of those limiting beliefs that might have been holding you back. Next is Rise and Shine, how to unlock your potential and get you into a possibility mindset. Let's go get started with a quote as we move into section 3. All right, section 3, Rise and Shine. Even if you are on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. A quote by Will Rogers. And for me, I think this is important because it talks about momentum and taking action. Because even if you think you're doing the right thing, if you stay just sit in the same place, you're not really growing, you're not learning, you're not developing yourself further. And that's what all this is about, right? Transformational growth. So we'll get started with the next chapter, chapter 6, which is titled Unlock. All right, let's get started. Chapter 6, Unlock. Bring to light your highest potential. For this one, I have 2 quotes. The first is this: to dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. To not dare is to lose oneself. By Søren Kierkegaard. The next quote is by Oliver Page, and it's a little bit of a long one, so bear with me. Intentionally leaving the comfort zone goes hand in hand with developing a growth mindset. While the fixed mindset keeps us trapped by fear of failure, the growth mindset expands the possible. It inspires us to learn and take healthy risks, leading to positive outcomes across life domains. Again, by Oliver Page. So we start the section, Rise and Shine, with Will Rogers asking us to take action, right? Don't just sit where you are, even if you're doing the right thing. You need to keep moving forward, or else you get run over. Not such a great thing. With Søren Kierkegaard and Oliver Page, what we're seeing here is that it's okay to move forward and even falter, lose your footing momentarily, as Søren says. However, if you don't dare, if you're not trying something, if you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, then you could lose yourself totally. I think that's what Will Rogers was getting to when we started this section. And so the whole concept here is really around unlocking your potential and moving forward and taking action. Not easy to do. It can be kind of scary, right? Which is why we stay in our comfort zone so frequently. But that's where the growth comes from. It's pushing past that fear zone into your learning and your growth zones. And that's really what I want to get you thinking about today as we do our discussion questions and reflection. I chose unlock for a reason. It's a very powerful word. Yes, it starts with U for power up, right? The U and up, the next step in the process. And for me, the definition is about freeing from restraint or restriction was very powerful in its meaning to me, because we have the ability to free ourselves from those self-imposed restrictions or restraints that we can sometimes unknowingly place on ourselves. Let's get started with a reading from the chapter for today. You do have the power to unlock your destiny and to free yourself from the chains that you have unknowingly bound yourself with, those that grew out of playing it safe, playing small, and staying under the radar. The bonds of not feeling worthy enough, good enough, or from the fear of facing a challenge or some form of rejection. You can be free of those self-inflicted chains and be your most powerful, strong, and best self. However, it means pushing yourself out of what is comfortable for you. It requires you to be a bit daring, a bit bold, and to have some faith. Yes, you will have to get out of your comfort zone. All right, so we're talking comfort zone. That's a place where we feel safe and secure and pretty comfortable, right? To move past that means that we have to step out of our comfort, our place of comfort, and that means moving into a place of unknown, which can be scary and why it's called the fear zone. And until you get into the fear zone and conquer those fears and move past that to learn and to grow, you can't really fully develop. My first discussion question for today is for you to reflect back on a time where you, when outside of your comfort zone and into your fear zone, what did you learn? How did you grow? What did you identify for yourself? What happened? Think about that for a few minutes and jot it down. Okay. So you took a few minutes and you thought back to a time where you pushed yourself out of your comfort zone and got into that fear zone and learned something new. What happened? What did you learn? What did you learn about yourself? What activity did you learn? All right, that brings us to the second question. If you think about moving out of your comfort zone at this point, something that you need to do. Could be at work, could be at home, a new activity you wanted to try, a goal you've set for yourself. What's your level of confidence that you can move out of your comfort zone into that fear zone in order for you to continue to learn and grow and get to that vision or goal for yourself in the future? What would you rate that level of confidence to be? And think about a scale of 1 being, I don't have that much confidence, to 5 being, I totally got this. What would you score yourself? Why? Why did you score yourself that way? With the second discussion question, asking your level of confidence, that can be a little tricky. It depends on the situation, right? I know for myself, if I have to rate my level of confidence with doing some type of a physical activity, I would usually give myself a 3 or 4, maybe even a 5, but usually a 3 or 4. I can do it. I can at least try it, right? And learn from it and figure out how to do it again if I need to, if I fail. So I would say with most physical activities, I'm usually giving myself like a 3 or 4, maybe even a 5. When it comes to other things like writing a book, publishing it, and then putting it on LinkedIn, when I had to go through that process, I think I would give myself more like a 2. I was feeling pretty uncomfortable getting out of my comfort zone and having to be more visible and more vulnerable, in particular around people who I was, had working relationships with, had work colleagues with. That was kind of scary for me to do. I'm sure that you could relate that in some areas you may have a pretty high level of confidence, in others not so much. It's a little bit more scary or uncomfortable or fearful for a variety of reasons. And it's unique for each one of us. I think the important thing is identifying when you're staying in your comfort zone too much and not pushing past that. And it's important for us to acknowledge when it is uncomfortable and there is fear and validate that. It's not that there isn't fear when you move into that fear zone, right? It is uncomfortable, it's unknown. It's also important to be able to grow. So I made myself more vulnerable. Nothing bad happened. I have a few people sometimes write back to me, why did you do this? Or, that seems odd. But that's okay. They're just not part of my tribe going forward. That's fine. But I did learn a lot about myself, that I could be more vulnerable and nothing bad happens if you make yourself a little bit more visible. What came up for you? Where was the place where you felt a little bit more comfort or confidence, a little bit less? And what do you think would happen if you pushed yourself in that area where you're a little less confident? Think about that. One of the ways that I've approached moving out of my comfort zone and having to tackle something new, and something that I've used with other people in a coaching or mentorship capacity, has been actually thinking about breaking some of your larger goals into smaller bite-sized, more achievable ones, and then trying what we call rapid cycles of change. Now, we use this improvement science technique all the time in healthcare to help improve the health and safety of the patients that we care for. We call it the plan, study, do, act method, And it's a rapid cycle where you identify what you want to change, go about making the change, study it, what can you learn from it, and then make adjustments and keep moving forward. And you do these rapid cycles over and over again, sort of as a flywheel, and you start to get momentum, and you start to find that with each small change, as you adjust, you build momentum and you get further in improving the process that you want to. And it could be in patient care, or it could be something individually that you want to accomplish. Either a physical activity, say run a marathon and break it down, or it could be learning how to present to a room full of board members and feel really comfortable with that. Whatever it happens to be, breaking now a big goal into something that's smaller, achievable as far as steps, and then trying it out. Just give it a try. And learning from that trial allows you to be, again, like a scientist that we've talked about in the book, where you're trying to stay objective and observe things. Here you're being a scientist and just checking out your hypothesis, right? If I try this, this will happen. If I try that, something different will happen. And you can keep making those adjustments as you go, and you learn and you grow. So in this case, there is no failure. It's never about failing. So that's where you can get rid of the fear, because everything that you're doing is about learning and growing. So the more you learn, the better your outcomes can be. For the next discussion question, I want you to think about that, rapid cycles of change. Is that something that would make sense to you? Are there bigger goals that you have that you can make smaller, more manageable, achievable? Give it a try. Not be afraid, because it's all about learning and growing. I hope today's reflection and discussion questions got you thinking a little bit about how you can unlock your potential. Free yourself from any restrictions or from restraints that you put on yourself mentally, emotionally, sometimes physically, or that others may have placed upon you because of their limiting beliefs or their expectations of you. I think here, just stay forward facing, keep thinking about taking action. Don't just sit there and get run over. Make sure that you take some time to think about how you can unlock your potential and get out of your comfort zone, continue to learn and grow. And that will be key as we move into chapter 7, which is in our next session of our virtual book club. I hope you'll join us for that session, and have a terrific day.